This is Rabbi Son, hot takes on news, pop culture, and religion, hosted by Rabbi Patrick. And not today with Javon, but it's important that I got to do this monologue. It's still spiritual, irreverent, always fearless, and produced by Darshan Yeshiva. So this episode is a little bit different because there's no Javon today. If there are any downloads of this, then we'll know that maybe this monologue style might be fun to do. And if none of you like it, well, then I guess we'll know to never do, side-by-sides ever again. This is a first of a few episodes, maybe just two, maybe three, where we're specifically talking about adoption, talking about it as a Jewish family, bringing in a child into your home and what that experience has been like. Note that we are just one family. Not everyone's experiences are the same. What happened with us and sort of what we encountered may be completely different from you. And we just need to remember that, right? Not everyone is exactly the same. I am going to gripe a little bit. And I apologize. I know, I probably shouldn't do that. I should be a lot more of a positive person. And I generally am, but there were just elements of adopting that I feel I want to talk about because Jewish families need to know what it is like to adopt, what your experience is going to be like. So I'm going to tell you about Jewish-specific issues in adopting from the moment that Javon entered our home. So everything leading up to that. Now, if you want to know more about, once he was in the house and sort of the things that go along with that, hot take, really fun to have to explain, meat and milk dishes. That was interesting. You're welcome to send us an email, post on Substack, comment on social media, and I'll tell you more about what it was like once he was in the house and sort of the things that we did with that. We're not going to post anything unless you tell us. This is your organization. This is your nonprofit. You have to tell us what you're interested in, and we will make content related to that. Clicks and, our own data, that's not enough. We need actual student feedback. So let's get started. The first issue that we encountered was with Jewish-specific adoption resources, of which there are very few. Now, there are Jewish organizations that work in adoption, and certainly you have Jewish people who are working in those organizations, and so they have, some interesting takes and all of that. So you do have that. But our experience was that the frame of reference for a lot of Jewish peoples who are involved in adoption had to do with egg, sperm, second person surrogacy, foreign adoption, not adopting a teenager from foster care, not adopting from foster care, period. And when we talked to different Jewish organizations that in some way were connected with adoption, and we talked about we wanted to just adopt from foster care here in Virginia, I mean, you would have thought that it was like, what are you, like that's a thing. And Jewish agencies, I think, are often used to a certain wealth strata. People who adopt from foster care don't necessarily fit in that category. In fact, I've started calling this, and it's a pun, the class ceiling. And that for a lot of people engaging in Jewish community, there can be this perception that there is this class ceiling, right? Pun on glass ceiling if you don't get it. And that at a certain point, you're going to hit it. You're going to be at the kiddush lunch talking about what you do for a living, and it's not doctor, lawyer, accountant, business owner, things like that. And there's the frames of reference of life will hit those walls. Now, in smaller Jewish communities, in the communities in the Southeast, it's a little bit different, actually. There's a little bit more diversity when you get into smaller communities, strangely enough, when it comes to class. But I know it's a negative way of thinking. Again, I said that I was going to gripe a little bit here. And it's a personality flaw on my part, this sense of class issues. And it's just maybe something I need to work on as part of my neshama being sort of improved over time, because it is a little bit of an MO for me. I do tend to be somewhat of a populist, but to top all of this off, getting back to adoption and not about my personality flaws, there are no specific Jewish adoption resources out there, period. They just don't exist. There are websites, don't get me wrong, right? There's blogs. There's probably videos of people, like me talking about their adoption experience. There's no real community around that. There are Facebook groups. that you can join that are not Jewishly specific. And there are, I think, some Jewish ones, but again, a lot of the Jewish ones are going to go back to egg, sperm, fertility, things like that. Um, you know, people like us weren't talking about fertility treatments. It wasn't going to be part of our story. And so we felt kind of alone in that. What resources that are out there are written by evangelical Christians, or they're written by social workers who have a somewhat non-faith, and I would even say anti-faith lens. I think that you have one category that pursued adoption as part of sort of a great commission, right? Convert the world. And also some elements of like a reaction, like a soft version of pro-life. And then you have another side that saw some of the consequences of adopting for the wrong reasons and in ways that we now know to be the wrong ways. And you see sort of the issues that have come with that. So the pushback or the pendulum swing went from faith communities, promoting in faith communities, talking to faith communities, to almost this like anti-religion sort of thing. I can understand from the history of Catholic and Protestant adoption why the pendulum swing would happen among social workers. But I do think that the bias needs to be less against religion, and it needs to be about making sure that people are adopting for the right reasons, regardless of their religion or their culture, their creed, anything like that. We shouldn't encourage the wrong people to adopt, no matter who they are. As a side note, so you know that I digress, but I think adoption advocacy groups need to start looking for a very particular kind of parent for adoption. I think that the Jewish world has a lot of these people. I'm going to stereotype. This is my own lived experience, but we need the cool aunts and the cool uncles. Right? We need the people who don't see themselves, changing diapers, but could see themselves being parents, when they're, 50, 60, 70 years old and looking at, not just their child, but their grandchildren, right? They see themselves as great, really good grandparents. Maybe they just don't see that bridge time between being a not parent and being a grandparent. We need the kind of people who collect tiki mugs, listen to Bauhaus, post on Reddit, Disney adults. Like, we really need those Disney adults to get in on adopting. The people who don't necessarily see themselves changing diapers or going to, elementary school plays, but are happy to teach a, LGBTQ kid with purple hair how to play Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like, we need those parents. And my experience, there's a lot of those Jewish parents out there, and a lot of them are, are people who are probably listening to this, right? If you're kind of like, I know in Judaism we have issues around tattoos, but like, I'll just say it. Like, if you're kind of like this tattooed person who, you and your spouse, like, you have a really strong marriage and you could see yourself like, raising a 14-year-old and maybe not a 4-year-old, we need you. You are exactly the kind of people we need. You would be great parents to a teenager because you have some sort of the flexibility of personality and ability to prioritize. And those are skills that you need when you're an adoptive parent. Frankly, they're the skills you need to be a parent, period. But anyway, back to Judaism. So you're trying to adopt, and you're thinking about what it means for a kid to come into your home and to celebrate Judaism, right? Most adoptive children coming out of wherever are not going to be Jewish. That's just statistics in America. And so you're thinking about, well, what will Passover be like? What will Hanukkah be like? And again, no resources, nothing. I recall one article by a Reconstructionist rabbi, and if I can find it, I wasn't the one that found it. My wife did. Javon's mother found it. But we'll look for it, and maybe I can share it somehow. Griping aside, though, I would say we were very fortunate to have friends and family, coworkers, congregants who are totally on board with our adoption experience and would have wanted to help more if we had known how to ask. So here's the thing about our culture, and this is a Jewish thing as well. We're very good at life cycle, right? The Jewish people are excellent at a baby's been born, a person has died, a person is sick. We have a process for everything. B'nai mitzvah. We have nailed life cycle. We never really figured out the adoption part. So I have books that will have like different little things in them, like how to, like, not even how to, but like, oh, if the baby naming is for an adopted child, here's what you say, right? That kind of stuff. Here's the blessing for new parents if the kid is adopted. So you'll have one sentence in an entire like rabbi's manual or some sort of like life cycle or Jewish home book. It'll be like one line. And I get it, right? The whole thing doesn't have to be about adoption. But if you think about sort of the way that we tend to have a life cycle, right? A child who's, biologically yours, they come into this world, like what to do. You have an army of bubbies who are ready to go and to do the things that have to be done. But what do you do when you adopt a child? Well, what do you do for that friend or that family member? It's not instinctive. It's not ingrained in our culture. You know, baby is born, you have the baby registry, you have the Brit Milah or the Simchat Bat or whatever. You throw parties, to bring casseroles, all of that. And what happens when you adopt a child is that those things aren't built into the Jewish adoptive experience the way they are in other parts of life cycle. So there's a good chance your family and friends aren't going to know what to do for you. And you're going to feel alone. So, friends, don't let this happen to you. You'll feel isolated. You'll resent your family members who maybe had, children, and there were like, baby registries and parties, and maybe the parents, moved in for a short time to help you because, like, or help them, I should say, because they're new parents and they need help and whatever. You know, this is stuff, again, that people don't instinctively know what to do when you adopt a child. So they're waiting on you. They're waiting on you to tell them what to do. But if you're a new parent, how are you supposed to know what to do, right? Like you're like the rest of us. You're faking it as you go along. And social workers won't be helpful here because the role of social worker is to watch that child and make sure that this is a healthy home for them to be part of, right? They're not in it for you. That's a very important thing that you need to understand. The social workers are not about you, okay? They're about the child, okay? And I'm glad it should be that way. However, again, you're going to bump up against this sort of what do we do, resource, whatever thing. In my experience is they just send you links, right? They just send you YouTube videos, they just throw whatever online content at you, hoping that that'll work. And then they recommend books, and the books are all, see earlier issue of Evangelical Christians. It's a bad metaphor, but I think about adoption in terms of what people should be doing, the way I think about funerals, right? You know what to do, right? If a Jewish person dies, you know what the process is. And Jewish adoptive parents need that kind of process. They need, us to surround them and say, okay, I got the casseroles. I'm vacuuming the living room for you. Okay, we've got somebody mowing the lawn, right? All of those kinds of things. Hey, here's gift cards to every like kind of fast food thing, every like, family friendly thing in your area, amusement parks or putt golf or like whatever, or mini golf or whatever they call it now. They all need those same gifts of time, talent, and treasure that parents of a new baby would need. So do all of those kinds of things. Ask people for those things. And that's the thing. If you're a Jewish adoptive parent, you have to tell people what you need. And if you don't know, make it up, right? What I really need is a Starbucks gift card. Why? Well, because you're going to need a Starbucks at some point, and it's cool to have that $5 or God, Starbucks is so expensive now. Like, but anyway, you need the same stuff that everyone else would need. And you're going to need the tools to sort of take this child in and, help them out and get them assimilated into your life. So you're going to need a Target gift card so you can buy a board game, right? You're going to need coupons for, pizza delivery, right? God knows you're going to need a lot of macaroni and cheese. So things to make macaroni and cheese. But the point is, you have to tell people, and that's another one of these frustrating things. You don't know what to tell people if you've never experienced it before, right? And if everybody's frame of reference is, oh, you have the baby biologically, or nowadays baby surrogacy, and then you just treat them like a normal child, which, oh, yuck, I hate the way we frame that. Then yeah, like if you bring an 8-year-old or 10-year-old or a 15-year-old in your home, people just aren't going to know. So you got to tell them. And it's frustrating, but them's the breaks. I know I'm rambling. I hope this has been meaningful to you. I just want, Jewish adoptive parents or prospective parents, just know you're not alone, right? we felt alone a little bit in the process. We didn't know anyone we could really talk to. The people that we knew who were adoptive parents who were Jewish, their kids were, in their 40s, right? Or older. So we just didn't have, there was no setting up our kid on like a play date. I mean, granted, he was too old for play dates, but there was no like setting up, Jewish families with adoptive kids on play dates. Just wasn't a thing. And, you go online and you can find, Jewish adoptees. But like, am I really going to hit up some like, person who is an influencer online doing like multiracial Jewish work and just say, hey, you were adopted, like, talk to me about things? Like, that's just not going to happen, right? I needed to talk to Jewish adoptive parents who were experiencing the adoption process in this era, because this is a particular era. It was very different than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. The way that we view adoption in terms of globally and then nationally has changed. I would say mostly for the better, right? But we just didn't have those people. And I just want all of you who are listening to this, if this resonates with you, I see you. I see where you're coming from. I've been there before. And I'm here to help in any way I can. Darshan Yeshiva is dedicated to beginner Jewish learning. Well, if you're a new parent, you're a beginner, or if you're a prospective parent interested in adopting, you're certainly new. And that Jewish lens matters. We need to talk about, baby's first Hanukkah when baby is 8 years old, right? We need to talk about what does it mean to have an interfaith, household when the whole family is Jewish, right? But you've brought in this child who's not Jewish, is probably not going to convert. Maybe they will. I don't know. But how do you do that, right? Do you have a Christmas tree or not, right? Do you celebrate different holidays that way? These are important questions. And I know that we have a large part of Darshan Yeshiva, which includes Jews who have come into Judaism through conversion, right? So let's say you have a converted Jewish household. You adopt a child who's not Jewish. You have family members who are not Jewish. So how do you balance all of that, right? Like, it's crazy enough having a Jewish wedding where the only Jews who are there are friends, the rabbi, and the couple. But then what happens when you have that same vibe going into becoming a parent? All of these things are difficult, and they're all for beginners. And because Darshan Yeshiva is dedicated to beginner Jewish learning, that is what Rabbi and Son has been, right? It's been about our son, who is a beginner, 3 years in, but still a beginner to all of these holidays, all of these customs, all of these traditions, all of these ways of thinking about religion, faith, the big picture of the world. And I know that you, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, and you're thinking about adopting a child, you are Jewish and you are a beginner. And so this fits perfectly in with Darshan Yeshiva, and it's what we've been doing this whole time. So please reach out. Please let me know if you're interested. I hope that this has been meaningful to you. I hope you like these short form videos and short form recordings. Again, you have to let us know. If you don't tell us, we won't do anything. So please comment, subscribe, share with your friends, send us an email, whatever we have to do. Let us know how we can help you. But Jewish adoptive parents, you're out there. I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'd love to talk to some people that are interested in adopting who are Jewish and don't know how all of that works. Hit me up. I'm here for you. Thanks. Thank you to our sponsors at Darshan Yeshiva for making this content possible. Darshan Yeshiva provides beginner-level online Jewish learning, including the very popular Conversion Judaism program, with sponsoring rabbis and students all over the world. Start your Jewish journey any place, anywhere, and anytime with our conservative, reform, reconstructionist, Jewish renewal, humanistic, and post-denominational rabbi mentors. Become the Jew you always wanted to be with Darshan Yeshiva.